The coffee pot slipped from my hands and shattered across the gas station floor at 2:47 a.m. Black liquid spread like spilled secrets between the white tiles, and I just stood there watching it pool around my beat-up sneakers. "Damn it, Sydney," I whispered to the empty store. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps, casting everything in that sickly yellow glow that makes everyone look half dead. My name is Sydney, and at 32, I've perfected the art of being invisible. 3 jobs, 0 respect, and a family that treats me like a stray dog they can't quite bring themselves to put down. But tonight felt different. Tonight, the numbers on my phone screen had finally hit something that made my chest tight. I grabbed the mop from behind the counter, my hands shaking slightly. Not from the caffeine crash. I'd stopped drinking coffee months ago to save money. The shaking came from what I'd seen on my investment app during my break. $9.3 million. I mopped up the coffee in slow, methodical strokes, letting that number roll around in my head. 9,300,000, and some change. All sitting in accounts my family didn't know existed, built from cryptocurrency trades, distressed real estate purchases, and a dozen other investments I'd learned about through free YouTube videos and library books. The bell above the door chimed, and Marcus shuffled in, night shift regular. Homeless guy who bought a single energy drink every night and counted out exact change in quarters. "Evening, Sydney," he said, heading straight for the cooler. "Hey, Marcus, how's the night treating you?" "Better than most." He grabbed his usual Red Bull and approached the counter. "You look different tonight. Lighter, maybe?" I scanned his drink and watched him count out coins. "Just tired." "Nah, that's not it." He slid the quarters across the counter. "You got that look people get when they're about to do something big." I handed him his receipt, studying his weathered face. Marcus saw things other people missed. Came with living on the streets, I guess. You learn to read people when your survival depends on it. "Maybe I do," I said. He nodded and headed for the door. "Whatever it is, I hope it works out for you. You're good people, Sydney." The door chimed again, leaving me alone with the hum of refrigerators and the distant sound of traffic on the interstate. I pulled out my phone and opened the app again, just to make sure the numbers were real. They were. I'd started small 7 years ago. $20 here, $50 there. Bought Bitcoin when it was dirt cheap and everyone called it fake money. Invested in rental properties in neighborhoods people were fleeing, knowing gentrification would eventually follow. Learned about options trading, foreign exchange, and distressed debt from forums where anonymous strangers shared strategies that financial advisors charged thousands to explain. While my siblings, Scarlett, Evan, and Bella, lived off trust funds and inheritance, I lived off ramen noodles and spite. While they mocked my secondhand clothes and minimum wage jobs, I was building something they couldn't see, something they'd never expect from their family failure. The TV in the break room was still on, volume low. I glanced up at the late-night news, half listening to a story about local business struggles. Then I heard a name that made me freeze. Leandro Whitfield's tech startup, Pinnacle Solutions, is reportedly facing severe financial difficulties. Sources close to the company suggest bankruptcy filings could come as early as next week. I set down my mop and walked closer to the screen. There was Leandro, my sister Scarlett's husband, looking pale and sweaty outside some courthouse. The same Leandro who'd cornered me at their wedding reception 10 years ago, drunk and handsy, whispering about how I was more interesting than my sister. The same Leandro who'd laughed the loudest when Evan called me Service Sydney at last year's family barbecue. The reporter continued, "The company's rapid expansion and questionable investment strategies have left investors scrambling to recover their losses." I pulled out my phone and opened a different app, one that tracked business filings and bankruptcy proceedings. Sure enough, there it was, Pinnacle Solutions, hemorrhaging money faster than I'd ever imagined possible. A smile tugged at the corner of my mouth, not a happy smile, something colder, I walked back to the counter and leaned against it, staring out at the empty parking lot. A semi-truck rumbled past on the highway, its headlights sweeping across the windows like a searchlight. "They'll never see me coming," I said to the empty store. The words hung in the air like a promise, or maybe a threat. I wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. The smell of expensive perfume and judgment hit me the moment I walked through Grandma Teresa's front door. I clutched the handmade photo album I'd spent weeks putting together. Pictures of her garden through the seasons, her hands teaching me to braid bread, moments my siblings never bothered to witness. "Oh, look, everyone. Sydney's here," Scarlett announced from across the living room, her voice dripping with false sweetness. She wore a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. And she brought something crafty. Evan looked up from his whiskey. "Let me guess, another scrapbook? Did you use the good scissors from the dollar store this time?" "It's a photo album," I said quietly, walking toward Grandma Teresa's chair. She sat like a queen holding court, 90 years old and sharper than any of them deserved. "How thoughtful, sweetheart." Grandma Teresa took the album with gentle hands, ignoring the snickers behind me. "This is beautiful work." Bella didn't look up from her phone. "I got her a spa weekend in Napa. Professional photos for her Instagram. You know, something she can actually use. Unlike whatever Sydney cobbled together," Scarlett added, examining her manicured nails. "Though I suppose we should appreciate the effort." I felt the familiar burn in my chest, the same feeling I'd carried since childhood. But tonight, with $9 million sitting in my accounts, it felt different, smaller somehow. "Sydney, honey, sit next to me." Grandma Teresa patted the chair beside her. "Tell me about work. How are your studies going?" "Studies?" Evan laughed. "What studies?" "She works at a gas station, Grandma, and that diner on 5th Street. Oh, and doesn't she clean offices too?" "3 jobs." Scarlett shook her head. It's almost impressive how hard someone can work and still accomplish so little. "I'm learning about finance," I said, settling into the chair, "taking online courses." The room went quiet for a moment, then erupted in laughter. "Finance?" Bella finally looked up from her phone. "Sydney, you can barely afford car insurance. What are you going to do, become a financial advisor?" "Hi, I'm Sydney. I'll teach you how to be poor." "Leave her alone." Grandma Teresa's voice cut through the laughter like a blade. "At least she's trying to better herself." "By studying finance?" Evan wiped his eyes. "Grandma, she doesn't even have a college degree. She's 32 and still lives in that studio apartment above the laundromat. Some people are late bloomers," Grandma Teresa said firmly. "And some people peak early and spend the rest of their lives coasting." Scarlett's smile faltered. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means your interior design business has lost 3 clients this month," Grandma Teresa replied calmly. "It means Evan's investment firm is hemorrhaging money. It means Bella's influencer career consists of selling teeth whitening kits to teenagers." The room fell silent, except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. "How do you—" Evan started. "I'm 90, not dead," Grandma Teresa said. "I know exactly what's happening with all of you, including Sydney's little ventures." My blood went cold. Did she know about the investments? The accounts? Leandro chose that moment to stumble over from the bar cart, clearly drunk. "Sydney!" He threw an arm around my shoulders, reeking of bourbon. "How's my favorite sister-in-law?" "Get off me," I said, shrugging away from him. "Come on, don't be like that. You know, you're looking good tonight, really good." His hand lingered on my back. "We should catch up sometime, just the 2 of us." "Leandro," Scarlett's voice was sharp, "sit down." "I'm just being friendly," he slurred. "Sydney knows I'm kidding around. Don't you, Sydney?" "I know exactly what you are," I said, standing up. Grandma Teresa reached for my hand and pressed something into my palm. A birthday card, thick and heavy. "Open this later," she whispered. "When you're alone." Grandma, we should talk about your estate planning, Evan said, suddenly serious. I've been thinking about the house, the investments. We need to make sure everything's properly structured for tax purposes. Oh, you have you? Grandma Teresa's eyes glittered. How thoughtful of you to think about my death. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. She stood up slowly, using her cane for support. You're all vultures circling a carcass that isn't even cold yet. Mom's just being practical, Scarlett said. We all want what's best for the family. Do you? Grandma Teresa looked around the room. Because from where I sit, most of you haven't visited me in months. Except Sydney. She comes every Sunday, brings me groceries, fixes my computer when it breaks. We've been busy, Bella started. Too busy for family, but not too busy to discuss my will. Grandma Teresa's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Interesting priorities. I squeezed the card in my palm, feeling its weight. Whatever was inside felt important. Life-changing, maybe. I should go, I said. Early shift tomorrow. Of course you should, Evan muttered. Wouldn't want to keep the coffee pots waiting. As I headed for the door, I heard Grandma Teresa's voice one last time. Sydney, remember what I always told you about patience? I nodded, not trusting my voice. In the car, I finally opened the card. Inside was a handwritten note and a legal document. The note read, "The house deed has a clause they don't know about. 30 days after my death, if no action is taken, it can be purchased by any family member for the original 1962 price. 847. I made sure of it. Love, Grandma." My hands shook as I read the legal document. It was real. It was binding. And none of them had any idea what was coming. The funeral was on a Tuesday. Grandma Teresa would have hated that. She always said important things should happen on weekends when people had time to properly grieve. But Scarlett insisted on Tuesday because it was cheaper to rent the church. I sat in the back row wearing my only black dress, the one I'd bought for job interviews 5 years ago. My siblings sat in the front, designer mourning clothes and crocodile tears. Evan kept checking his phone during the service. She lived a full life, the pastor said. 90 years of love, wisdom, and family devotion. Scarlett dabbed her eyes with a lace handkerchief. Bella filmed herself crying for her Instagram story. I just stared at the casket and counted down days in my head. 29 days left. After the service, I found Zara waiting by my car. She'd taken the day off from the diner to be here, even though she'd never met my grandmother. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I'm fine." I unlocked the car. "Just tired." "Bullshit." Zara got in the passenger seat. "You've been weird for weeks, ever since that birthday party. What's going on?" I started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot. "Can you keep a secret?" "Sydney, I've been keeping your cryptocurrency passwords in my safe for 3 years. I think we're past that question." I drove to a coffee shop across town, somewhere my family would never go. Too middle class for their taste. We ordered lattes and found a corner booth. "I need your help with something," I said, pulling out my phone. "But first, I need to show you something." I opened my investment app and turned the screen toward her. Zara's eyes went wide. "Holy shit. Sydney, is this real? 9.7 million as of this morning. When did you? She stared at the numbers. "You work at a gas station." "I work 3 jobs, and I've been investing every spare penny for 7 years. I took the phone back. "But that's not why I need your help." I told her about the house deed, the legal clause, the 30-day window. Zara listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to something that looked like pride. "So you're going to buy your grandmother's house for $800? That's step 1. What's step 2? I pulled out a folder I'd been carrying for weeks. "Leandro's company is hemorrhaging money. Stock price is in free fall. I've been buying shares through shell companies every time it drops." How many shares? Enough to have a controlling interest by next week. Zara leaned back in her chair. Jesus Christ, Sydney. You're not just buying a house, you're staging a corporate takeover. I prefer to think of it as aggressive asset acquisition. And you need me for what exactly? Logistics, phone calls, meeting with lawyers while I'm at work. I can't do this alone, and I can't let anyone know it's me until it's too late to stop. Zara was quiet for a long moment, stirring her latte. What about your family? When they find out, they won't find out until I want them to. Sydney, this is nuclear. You realize that, right? This isn't just getting back at them. This is destroying them. They destroyed me first. Every family dinner, every birthday, every holiday for 32 years. They made me feel like nothing. I kept my voice steady. I'm just returning the favor. And after? When the dust settles? I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. That was a lie. I'd thought about it constantly, but some plans were too dark to share even with Zara. My phone buzzed. Text from Evan. Family meeting tomorrow about Grandma's estate. 7 p.m. at Mom's house. Don't be late for once. I showed Zara the message. She whistled low. 28 days, she said. 28 days. The next evening, I sat in my mother's living room, listening to my siblings divide up Grandma Teresa's life like they were splitting a restaurant check. The house should go to me, Scarlett said. I have the most experience with real estate. Experience losing money on real estate, Evan corrected. I think we should sell it and split the proceeds. Or I could move in, Bella suggested. Turn it into a content house. Film TikToks in every room. It would be like vintage aesthetic meets modern lifestyle. Mom nodded along to everything, offering no real opinion. She'd always been better at enabling than leading. What about you, Sydney? Evan asked with mock concern. Any thoughts on what we should do with Grandma's house? I think we should wait, I said carefully. Make sure all the paperwork is in order before we make any big decisions. Paperwork? Scarlett laughed. Sydney, it's a house, not a corporate merger. We just need to transfer the deed. Actually, Evan pulled out his phone. I already called a realtor. She thinks we can get at least $400,000 for it. Maybe more if we stage it right. 400,000 split 4 ways. Bella calculated on her fingers. That's like 100,000 each. I could get so much work done with that money. Work? Scarlett raised an eyebrow. Cosmetic work, procedures, investment in my brand. I excused myself to use the bathroom and called Zara from the hallway. They're already planning to sell, I whispered. Perfect, let them plan. Makes it easier when you pull the rug out. The lawyer can file the paperwork tomorrow? Everything's ready. Just need your signature. I hung up and returned to the living room, where my family was now discussing staging strategies and listing prices. We should clean out her personal stuff first, Mom was saying. Donate the clothes, keep the jewelry for the girls. What about her financial documents? I asked. Bank accounts, investments, legal papers? I'll handle all that, Evan said dismissively. I am the only one here with actual financial experience. 27 days. I smiled and nodded, playing the role they expected. The quiet sister, the family failure, the one who cleaned up other people's messes for minimum wage. They had no idea I was about to become their biggest mess of all. The call came at 6:23 a.m. on a Thursday. I was restocking energy drinks at the gas station when my phone rang. Sydney? Scarlett's voice was shrill, panicked. Something's wrong with Grandma's house. I set down the Red Bull case slowly. What do you mean? The realtor called. She says the deed isn't in our name anymore. She says it belongs to some company called Meridian Holdings, LLC. That's weird, I said, injecting just the right amount of confusion into my voice. Did you call Evan? He's not answering. Neither is Mom. Sydney, I need you to come over here. Now. I'm at work until... This is more important than your stupid job. Someone stole our house. I hung up and texted Zara, "It's happening." Her reply came instantly. "Popcorn ready. Go get 'em, Tiger." An hour later, I stood in Scarlett's pristine kitchen while she paced like a caged animal. Her husband, Leandro, sat at the island, laptop open, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "I don't understand how this could happen," Scarlett was saying. "Houses don't just disappear from families." "They do if someone doesn't file the proper paperwork," I said. "Didn't Evan say he was handling all the legal stuff?" "He was supposed to." She threw her hands up. "But now he's not answering his phone, and Mom's at some spa retreat with no cell service." Leandro looked up from his laptop. "I've been researching this Meridian Holdings. It's a shell company, registered in Delaware. No public information about ownership." "Can we fight it?" Scarlett asked. "Sue them or something?" "With what money?" Leandro's voice was bitter. "My company's hemorrhaging cash, your business is barely breaking even, and legal fees for something like this could run 6 figures." I watched them spiral, feeling something cold and satisfied settle in my chest. "What about Bella? Maybe she has some savings." Scarlett laughed harshly. "Bella spent her trust fund on a nose job and a Tesla. She's broker than you are." My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Board meeting scheduled for Pinnacle Solutions, Friday 2 p.m. Your attendance is required. Meridian Holdings legal team." I showed the message to Leandro. His face went white. "What the hell is this?" he whispered. "Looks like someone wants to meet with you," I said, "but how did they get Sydney's number?" Scarlett grabbed the phone. "Unless..." She looked at me with sudden suspicion. "Sydney, you don't know anything about this, do you?" "How would I know anything about corporate takeovers? I work at a gas station." "Right, of course." But her eyes stayed narrow. "It's just weird that they texted you." Leandro was typing frantically on his laptop. "I'm looking up our shareholder information. If someone's buying up stock..." He went quiet, staring at the screen. "What?" Scarlett leaned over his shoulder. "We've been hemorrhaging shares for weeks. Every time the price drops, someone buys them up. Small purchases, different entities. But..." He ran his hands through his hair. "Someone owns 43% of my company." 43%? Scarlett's voice cracked. "How is that possible?" "Because I've been an idiot," Leandro said quietly. "I thought the stock drops were just market volatility. I didn't realize someone was orchestrating it." My phone rang. Zara. "I need to take this," I said, stepping onto the patio. "How's the chaos?" Zara asked. "Beautiful. They're starting to panic." "Good. Your lawyer called. The house deed is officially transferred. $847, just like Grandma planned." "And the Pinnacle shares?" 46% as of this morning. You're officially the majority shareholder." I looked through the glass doors at Leandro hunched over his laptop, Scarlett pacing behind him. "Schedule the board meeting for tomorrow. Time to introduce myself properly." When I came back inside, they were both staring at me. "Sydney," Scarlett said carefully, "that text about the board meeting, it came to your phone." So? "So why would a corporate law firm have your number?" I shrugged. "Maybe they got it from Grandma's contact list. She had everyone's information. But why would they contact you about Leandro's company?" Leandro was looking at me differently now. Not dismissive or condescending. Something closer to fear. "Sydney," he said slowly, "do you know what Meridian Holdings is?" "Should I?" "Because I've been thinking about that night at Grandma's party, when you said you were studying finance, and all those questions you asked about business structures and shell companies. I ask a lot of questions. That's how people learn. And your grandmother," Scarlett added, "she said something about your little ventures." What did she mean by that? The room went quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I could feel them both watching me, pieces clicking together in their heads. I said, picking up my purse, you should focus on your own problems right now. The board meeting's tomorrow at 2. Maybe you'll get some answers then. I headed for the door. Sydney, wait. Leandro's voice stopped me. If you know something about this, anything at all, I need you to tell me. My company, my employees, everything I've built is at stake. I turned back to look at him. The same man who'd grabbed me at family gatherings, who'd called me worthless, who'd laughed when his wife mocked my clothes and my jobs. I'm sure whoever's behind this has their reasons, I said. Maybe they're just better at business than you are. The door closed behind me with a soft click, leaving them alone with their fear and confusion. 24 hours until they learned exactly who they'd been underestimating all these years. The penthouse overlooking Grandma Teresa's old neighborhood cost me $1.2 million in cash. I'd bought it 3 weeks ago through another shell company, furnished it with a designer who thought I was a tech entrepreneur, and had it catered by the same company that handled Scarlett's wedding. Now I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching my family's cars pull into the guest parking below. They were 20 minutes late. Typical. You sure about this? Zara asked, adjusting the hidden cameras she'd positioned around the dining room. Once you do this, there's no going back. I've been planning this for 7 years, I'm sure. The elevator dinged, and I heard their voices in the hallway. Confused, arguing voices. This can't be right, Mom was saying. Sydney doesn't live in a place like this. Maybe she's house-sitting, Bella suggested. Or cleaning it. I opened the door before they could knock. They stood there gaping. Mom in her best dress, Evan in a suit that probably cost more than my car, Scarlett and Leandro looking like they'd rather be anywhere else, and Bella filming everything on her phone. Welcome, I said. Come in. The apartment was stunning. Marble floors, modern art, a dining table that seated 12. I'd had my hair done at the same salon Scarlett used, bought a dress that cost more than I used to make in a month, and hired a makeup artist who made me look like I belonged in their world. Sydney? Mom's voice was uncertain. Is this your place? It is now. Please sit down. Dinner's almost ready. They moved through the space like tourists in a museum, touching nothing, whispering to each other. Evan kept looking around like he was calculating the square footage and property value. How can you afford this? Scarlett asked bluntly. Sydney, what's going on? We'll get to that. First, let's eat. The caterers had prepared prime rib, lobster tail, and all the expensive sides my family loved. I'd even ordered the wine Evan always bragged about understanding. They ate in uncomfortable silence, stealing glances at me and each other. This is really good, Bella said, filming her plate. Very aesthetic, very mysterious, rich aunt vibes. I'm not your aunt, I said. I'm your sister. Sister who apparently has secret money, Evan said. Care to explain where this came from? I stood up and walked to the sideboard where I'd arranged 5 small velvet boxes. Actually, I thought we'd do gifts first. Christmas tradition, right? It's not Christmas, Mom said. Close enough. I placed a box in front of each of them. They stared at the boxes like they might explode. Open them, I said. Scarlett went first. Inside her box was a stack of papers. Bank statements, loan documents, client contracts. Her face went pale as she flipped through them. Where did you get these? Your interior design business is 3 months behind on rent. You've lost 6 clients this year. Your husband's company stock is worthless, and you're about to default on your mortgage. You can't just... How did you... Evan, your turn. He opened his box to find SEC investigation notices, client withdrawal forms, and screenshots of his company's bank accounts. His hands shook as he read. This is private information. This is illegal. Actually, it's all public record if you know where to look. Your investment firm has lost 60% of its assets under management. Your clients are fleeing faster than rats from a sinking ship. Bella's box contained screenshots of her social media analytics, brand partnership cancellations, and credit card statements. She started crying before she finished reading. "My follower count is down because of algorithm changes," she sobbed. "It's not my fault." "And yet you're still spending like you have 1 million followers instead of 50,000. Mom opened her box last. Inside was a single document, the deed to Grandma Teresa's house, now officially owned by Meridian Holdings, LLC. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Grandma left a clause in the deed. 30 days after her death, any family member could purchase the house for the original 1962 price, $847. The room went dead silent. "You bought Grandma's house," Evan said slowly. "I bought Grandma's house." "But how did you know about the clause?" I pulled out the birthday card Grandma Teresa had given me, now worn from handling. "She told me. The night of her party. She knew exactly what all of you were planning." Scarlett stood up so fast her chair fell over. "You manipulative little—" "Sit down, Scarlett." Something in my voice made her freeze. I'd never spoken to any of them like that before, never commanded anything. "There's more," I continued. "Leandro, remember that board meeting you were so worried about?" His face was gray. "What about it?" "I own 51% of Pinnacle Solutions as of yesterday morning. Congratulations, you work for me now." "That's impossible." "I've been buying your stock every time it dropped. Every time you made another stupid decision that tanked the price, I was there to scoop up the shares. Your own incompetence made it affordable." Leandro slumped in his chair like a deflated balloon. "You're going to fire me." "Actually, I'm going to restructure the entire company. New management, new direction, new ownership structure. You can stay on as a consultant if you want. Minimum wage, of course." "Sydney," Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Why are you doing this?" I walked back to the window, looking down at the neighborhood where I'd grown up feeling worthless. "Because for 32 years, you all made me believe I was nothing. Every family gathering, every holiday, every birthday. You mocked my clothes, my jobs, my dreams. You called me Service Sydney. You treated me like I was broken. We were just—" Bella started. "You were cruel. And now you know what it feels like to be powerless." Evan was staring at his phone, probably checking his company's stock price. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since the night Leandro cornered me at Scarlett's wedding. Since every time you laughed at my secondhand clothes. Since every time you made me feel small." I turned back to face them. These people who shared my blood but had never shared my struggles. "The house is being sold tomorrow. The new owners take possession next week." "Where are we supposed to go?" Mom asked. "I hear there are some nice studio apartments above the laundromat on 5th Street. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, Scarlett found her voice. "You've destroyed us." "No," I said quietly. "I've just stopped protecting you from the consequences of your own choices." Scarlett's wine glass shattered against the marble floor. Red wine spread like blood across the white stone, and for a moment, nobody moved. "You psychotic bitch," she screamed, standing over the broken glass. "You planned this whole thing. You've been lying to us for years." "I've been surviving," I said calmly. "There's a difference." "Surviving?" Evan's voice cracked. "You destroyed my company. I have employees, Sydney. People with families who depend on those jobs. 43 employees to be exact. And they'll keep their jobs under new management, better management. You can't just take over someone's life work. Watch me." Leandro hadn't said a word since learning about the stock acquisition. He sat staring at his hands, probably calculating how much money he'd lost, how many years of his life had just evaporated. "Leandro," I said, "you're being very quiet." He looked up, and I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes before. Fear. Real bone-deep terror. "What do you want from me?" he whispered. "An apology would be nice." "For what?" "For grabbing me at your wedding, for every time you made disgusting comments about my body, for treating me like I was invisible unless you were drunk and feeling handsy." Scarlett whipped around to stare at her husband. What is she talking about? "It wasn't, I never," Leandro stammered. "You cornered me in the coat room at your reception," I continued. "Told me I was more interesting than my sister. Said we should get together sometime when Scarlett wasn't around." "That's not true," Scarlett said, but her voice wavered. "Ask him." The silence stretched until Leandro's shoulders sagged. "I was drunk. It didn't mean anything." "It meant something to me." I walked closer to him. "It meant I wasn't even safe at my own sister's wedding." Scarlett's face went white, then red. "You bastard, you absolute bastard." "Scarlett, please, don't." She held up her hand. "Just don't." Bella was still crying, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. "Sydney, I never did anything to you. I was just a kid when most of this stuff happened. You filmed me crying at Mom's birthday last year, posted it on TikTok with the caption, 'When your sister has a breakdown at family dinner,' got 50,000 views. That was just, people thought it was funny." "It was my breakdown, Bella, my pain, and you turned it into content." Mom finally spoke up, her voice shaky. "Sydney, we made mistakes, but this is too much. You're destroying the family." "What family?" I laughed, and it came out harsh. "The family that forgot my birthday 3 years running? The family that didn't invite me to Evan's engagement party? The family that made me feel like a charity case every time I walked into a room? We never meant—" "You meant every word, every look, every snide comment about my clothes, my job, my life. You meant all of it." Evan was scrolling through his phone frantically. "The SEC investigation is real. They're freezing assets tomorrow." "I may have provided them with some interesting documentation about your trading practices," I said. "Turns out, using client funds to cover personal losses is frowned upon." "You reported me to the SEC?" "I reported criminal activity to the appropriate authorities." "I could go to prison." "You should have thought about that before you stole from your clients." Zara emerged from the kitchen where she'd been monitoring the recording equipment. My family turned to stare at her like she was a ghost. "Who is that?" Mom asked. "This is Zara. She's been helping me document everything." "Document?" Scarlett's voice was sharp. "What do you mean, document?" Zara held up a small camera. "Every word of this dinner, every confession, every admission of guilt." "You can't record us without permission," Evan shouted. "Actually, I can. This is my home and you're my guests. Single-party consent state." "What are you going to do with it?" Mom asked. "That depends on you." I walked to the window again, looking out at the city lights. Down below, I could see Grandma Teresa's old house, dark now, waiting for its new owners. "I'm giving you a choice," I said without turning around. "You can accept what's happened, learn from it, and try to become better people. Or you can fight me, and I'll release everything. The recordings, the financial documents, the evidence of Evan's embezzlement, the proof of Leandro's harassment." "That's blackmail," Evan said. "That's consequences." Bella wiped her eyes with a napkin. "What do you want us to do?" "I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything, to have people look at you like you're worthless, to wonder if you'll be able to pay rent next month." "For how long?" Scarlett asked quietly. "However long it takes for you to develop some empathy." Leandro finally found his voice again. "And if we don't fight you? If we just accept this? Then maybe we can have a relationship someday, a real one, built on mutual respect instead of inherited hierarchy." "You're giving us an ultimatum," Mom said. "I'm giving you a chance, more than you ever gave me." The room fell quiet except for the sound of Bella's sniffling and the distant hum of traffic below. I turned back to face them, these people who had shaped me through their cruelty and neglect. "The choice is yours," I said, "but choose carefully. I'm not the powerless little sister anymore. I'm not Service Sydney. I'm the person who owns your lives now." "And if we choose wrong?" Evan asked. I smiled, and it felt like winter. "Then you'll find out exactly how creative I can be with revenge." 3 weeks later, I sat in my lawyer's office watching the numbers climb on my portfolio. 14.2 million and counting. The Pinnacle Solutions restructure had gone smoother than expected. Turned out the company had good bones under Leandro's mismanagement. "The scholarship fund is ready to launch," my lawyer said, sliding papers across the mahogany desk. "Anonymous donations to public schools, specifically for girls from low-income families pursuing business or finance degrees." "How much are we starting with?" 2 million. That should cover about 400 students over the next 5 years. I signed the documents, thinking about 18-year-old me scraping together community college tuition with tips from the diner. "Make it 3 million. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "This is Evan. We need to talk." I showed the message to my lawyer. He raised an eyebrow. "Any of them been in contact since the dinner?" Radio silence for 3 weeks. I was starting to think they'd all moved to another state. "Want me to be present for whatever this is?" "No, I can handle my brother." An hour later, I met Evan at a coffee shop downtown. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, the kind of exhaustion that comes from not sleeping for weeks. He'd aged 5 years in 3 weeks. "You look like hell," I said, sitting across from him. "Thanks. Really what I needed to hear today." He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping him warm. "The SEC froze everything. Personal accounts, business accounts, even my car payments." "I heard. I'm living in a studio apartment above a dry cleaner. Scarlett won't take my calls. Mom's staying with her sister in Phoenix." "And you want me to fix it?" "I want to understand why." He looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. "I get that we were shitty to you. I do. But this level of destruction, Sydney, I might go to prison. You might. Depends on what the investigation finds." "You know what they'll find. You gave them everything." I stirred my latte slowly. "I gave them evidence of financial crimes. What they do with it isn't my problem. It's my life. It was my life too. Every day for 32 years. Evan was quiet for a long moment. "I called Dad's old partner yesterday, asked if there were any jobs available, anything." "And?" He laughed, said I was radioactive. No one in finance will touch me now. "So, get a job outside finance." "Doing what? I've never done anything else. I don't have any real skills." "Learn some." I did. "You were always smarter than us." I almost choked on my coffee. "Are you serious right now?" "You figured out cryptocurrency before any of us even knew what it was. You saw the real estate opportunities we missed. You played the stock market like a chess game. I learned all of that from YouTube videos and library books while you were getting drunk at country club parties. But you had the intelligence to learn it, the discipline. I had the motivation. There's a difference." My phone rang. Zara. "I need to take this," I said. "Sydney," Zara's voice was excited. "Turn on channel 7, now." "I'm not near a TV." "Find one, trust me." I looked around the coffee shop and spotted a small TV mounted in the corner. "Evan, can you ask them to turn on channel 7? He looked confused but walked to the counter. A minute later, a news report filled the screen. "Federal investigation into Pinnacle Solutions has uncovered a pattern of embezzlement and client fraud spanning 3 years. CEO Leandro Whitfield was arrested this morning on charges of wire fraud, money laundering, and securities violations." The camera showed Leandro being led away in handcuffs, Scarlett standing behind him looking shell-shocked. The company's new ownership has cooperated fully with federal investigators and has agreed to reimburse all affected clients. Evan returned to our table, his face pale. They arrested Leandro. I see that. Did you know this was going to happen? I knew he was guilty. I didn't know when they'd arrest him. Scarlett's going to lose everything. The house, the cars, probably her business too. Probably. You don't care at all, do you? I looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd spent decades making me feel worthless, who'd mocked my dreams and dismissed my potential. Now he sat across from me, broken and desperate, asking for mercy he'd never shown. I care, I said finally, but not in the way you want me to. What's that supposed to mean? It means I care about justice. I care about consequences. I care about people learning that their actions matter. And if we learn, if we change, then maybe we can have a real relationship someday. What about now? What about helping us now? I finished my latte and stood up. You want help? Get a job. Any job. Learn what it feels like to work for minimum wage. Learn what it feels like to choose between groceries and gas money. Sydney, please. Learn what it feels like to be me. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Evan? Yeah? The scholarship fund I'm starting? It's for girls like I was. Girls whose families don't believe in them. Girls who have to fight for every opportunity. That's good. Really good. I'm naming it after Grandma Teresa. His eyes filled with tears. She'd like that. She would. She's the only one who ever believed I could be more than what you all saw. I left him sitting there with his cold coffee and his consequences, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something that wasn't anger or satisfaction. I felt peace. I was restocking the energy drinks at the gas station when she walked in. Same fluorescent lights, same buzzing refrigerators, same smell of stale coffee and disinfectant. But everything felt different now. Bella stood by the door for a moment, looking around like she'd never seen a convenience store before. She probably hadn't, not from the inside. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a plain sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Sydney? Her voice was small, uncertain. We're closed, I said without looking up. The sign says you're open until midnight. I meant closed to family drama. She walked closer, her footsteps echoing on the linoleum. I got a job. That made me look up. Congratulations. At a daycare, minimum wage. I help with the toddlers and clean up after snack time. She paused. It's actually kind of nice. The kids don't care about my follower count. I went back to stocking drinks. What do you want, Bella? To apologize. Really apologize. Not just say sorry because I got caught. Okay. That TikTok I made of you crying, I watched it again last week. Really watched it, not just the view count. Her voice cracked. You were in pain, real pain, and I turned it into entertainment. I set down the energy drink case and faced her. Why? Because it was easier than asking why you were crying, because caring about your feelings would have meant admitting we were the problem. And now? Now I know what it feels like to have people laugh at your pain. The comments on my last few posts, they're brutal. People calling me a fraud, a spoiled brat, saying I deserve everything that happened. Do you? She was quiet for a long moment. Yeah, I think I do. The bell above the door chimed and Marcus shuffled in. Same routine, same Red Bull, same exact change counted out in quarters. Evening, Sydney, he said, then noticed Bella. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. It's fine, Marcus. This is my sister, Bella. Marcus nodded politely. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too, Bella said, and she sounded like she meant it. After Marcus left, Bella looked at me with something like wonder. He knows your name. He was genuinely happy to see you. He's a good person. When's the last time someone was genuinely happy to see me? She laughed, but it wasn't funny. I had 3 million followers, Sydney. 3 million people who knew my face, my favorite coffee order, my workout routine, but none of them actually knew me. And now? Now I have 12 followers left, and they're all bots. She sat down on the plastic chair by the lottery machine. I'm nobody. Welcome to the club. How did you stand it, being nobody for so long? I leaned against the counter, studying my youngest sister. The sister who'd filmed my breakdowns and mocked my dreams, who was now asking me how to survive invisibility. I found people who saw me anyway, I said finally. Zara, Marcus, Grandma Teresa. People who didn't need me to be successful to be worth their time. I don't know how to be that person. The person worth knowing without the money and the followers and the designer clothes. Figure it out. You've got time. My phone buzzed. Text from Zara. Documentary crew wants to interview you about financial literacy and revenge, offering serious money. I showed Bella the message. She read it and looked up at me. Are you going to do it? No. Why not? You could help people. Show them how to build wealth from nothing. I could, but that's not why they want to interview me. They want the revenge story, the drama, the family destruction. So I'm not performing my pain for other people's entertainment anymore. I did that for 32 years. Bella was quiet, processing this. What are you going to do instead? I pulled out my laptop and opened Reddit. I'm going to finish what I started. I navigated to a throwaway account I'd created months ago and opened a draft post I'd been working on. The title read, How I Went from Minimum Wage to Multi-Millionaire While My Family Called Me a Failure. You're going to tell the story yourself, Bella said, reading over my shoulder. On my terms. No cameras, no interviews, no documentary crew turning my life into content. I started typing. Just the truth for people who might need to hear it. Can I read it when you're done? Why? Because I want to understand, really understand what we put you through. I looked at her, this sister who'd caused me so much pain, who was now sitting in a gas station at 11 p.m. asking for understanding instead of money or forgiveness. Okay, I said, but you might not like what you read. I don't like who I was. Maybe reading this will help me figure out who I want to be. I turned back to the laptop and kept typing. The story poured out of me, 7 years of planning, decades of pain, the moment I realized I could choose justice over acceptance. Sydney, Bella's voice was soft. Yeah? For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. What you built, what you accomplished, it's incredible. I stopped typing and looked at her. You know what's funny? What? That's all I ever wanted to hear. The bell chimed again as another customer came in. I closed the laptop and got back to work, but something had shifted. The anger that had driven me for so long felt lighter somehow, like a weight I'd been carrying without realizing it. I finished the post at home that night, ended it with a simple line. Next time someone scoffs at your shoes, just smile and think. Read the fine print. I hit submit and closed the laptop. Outside my window, the city sparkled with possibility. Somewhere out there, a girl was working 3 jobs and learning about cryptocurrency from YouTube videos. Somewhere, a family was learning that cruelty has consequences. Somewhere, justice was being served cold, one careful move at a time. I smiled and went to bed, knowing that tomorrow someone would read my story and realize they weren't as powerless as they thought. And that was revenge enough.